Hello everyone! Thank you for joining me for this video. Today we'll be setting up the month of March in my bullet journal, even though it's already a little bit late in the month. This setup was very challenging, and I had to fight with the pages a little bit. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Katya. I'm an illustrator and animator working hard on healing my relationship with my creativity. And I feel like this video is a perfect example of that journey. So grab your tea or coffee, get cozy, and let's start. Let's start with the materials I thought I would be using for this month. I ended up not using most of them, but I thought it could be helpful to show them anyway. So let's quickly go over my supplies. I wanted to go for a dreamy spring vibe. This is my first real winter. Back where I'm originally from, we have a few rainy days, a week of it actually being cold, and the rest can't really be considered winter. It was very cold in Paris this winter, cold and dark, and I longed for sunny warm days. Having a little bit more sunlight during the day and seeing the blue sky when I look out of the window actually lifts me up. Not just my mood. My whole energy is different. It's even easier to wake up in the morning and get out of bed. So I wanted to celebrate all of that in the first month of spring in my bullet journal. And I thought all these materials would fit and work perfectly for it. But I was so wrong. I was very hesitant to include this part of me trying to make it work. I thought I could easily edit it out and not show these parts of myself. But that would be a mistake. It's not only disingenuous, I also feel it makes us forget that this is part of the creative process. Sometimes things don't go as planned, and that's okay. You can either accept it as it is, or work on it until it looks closer to what you imagined. And I wanted to remind you, but also to myself, that both ways are okay. You are not defined by one bad page, or even 100 bad pages. You can see me struggling here. I think at this point I already understood I didn't like what was happening on the page. It wasn't a matter of trusting the process anymore. I even tried making another page, the monthly spread. If you're new to bullet journaling, this spread lets you see and plan ahead for the whole month. For me, all the spreads and pages are influenced by the title page, so I was really trying to make myself love it and make it work. At this point, I had two choices. One, I could accept that this would be a month I like less, and that's okay. Two, I could try and redo it. I really need my bullet journal these days to stay on top of things, at least a little bit. And when I dislike my design, I tend to use my bullet journal less. So I tried changing things to see if small adjustments would help, and ended up tearing the whole thing away. I was really thinking hard about how to solve this and create something that would still feel like dreamy spring, but different from what I initially planned. I remember that a year ago I bought this Totoro letter set. I was always so afraid to use it, but suddenly it felt right. I checked if it would work with my current colors, as I had already used them on paper for the monthly spread. I decided to go for it. It was also a good way to hide the torn-up paper. The design was pretty simple, but it worked. I made some more tweaks for the monthly spread. Now the pink headline felt a little bit too much compared to the blues and yellows of the Totoro paper. I cut a strip of the same texture as the title page and redesigned the title. I'm going back to the title page for some last small details, to make the text stand out a bit more. After all this, I was tired, and I knew it would be a good idea to take a break. I decided to come back a few days later when I was a little bit fresher. Sometimes coming back to a project after not touching it for a bit actually does wonders and helps you see clearly what works and what doesn't. I was happy to discover that after a few days I still liked how this theme turned out. Maybe it won't be my best month of the year, but I was satisfied with it and glad it looked better to me than what I made before. I also found this washi tape in my collection that I felt could go well with the paper of the letter set that I used and give similar texture to the pages without stealing the whole show. I was a little bit scared to continue because I was sure I would mess up again and wouldn't have the energy to fix it this time. So I was really apprehensive with my strokes and hand movements, but after some time I felt a little bit more confident. As usual, I'm making a page dedicated to my goals for this month and deadlines. I find that setting deadlines, even if they're only for ourselves, helps to avoid dragging projects out for too long. For example, for February, I set the goal of finishing updates to my portfolio, and even though I didn't quite finish, I made a very big progress. And this month, I'll finish it for sure. What goals are you setting up for yourself this month? Please tell me in the comments below. I'm really curious to know what other people are planning for themselves. It might give me ideas and inspirations for my own goals. For the expense tracker, I'm continuing with the same theme. Recently, I bought a new phone and spent all my budget on that. So it's super important for me to keep track of what I buy. It helps me avoid unnecessary purchases because everything will have to be written here, in my little hall of shame. So you could say this spread shames me into not spending too much. Even if I don't always remember to track everything, the fact that it exists reminds me to be mindful. The habit tracker is the most tedious spread for me. Writing all these numbers is so confusing. I think I might have some issues with numbers. I always tend to switch them. When I was in school, I always mixed up plus and minus signs for no obvious reason, and it messed up the whole answer on my math test. I was never diagnosed with anything specific, but I try to stay away from important numbers these days. If I do have to work with numbers, I ask my partner to check them twice for me. He usually discovers a few mistakes. We recently moved to France, so trying to say numbers in French is even more confusing. I'm so glad I don't work with numbers professionally. It would be a disaster. Moving to my next spread, the One Good Thing a Day page. I really like this spread. It started when I was having a really rough time, and my partner and I began asking each other what was good about our day, specifically on bad days. It made us remember that even the worst days have something good in them. After doing this for a while, I thought, why not do that on good or even neutral days as well? I started adding it as a spread, and I try to write in it just before I go to sleep. Sometimes my partner and I still ask each other this question, but now I usually have my answers ready. As always, I'm keeping one blank page for whatever comes to mind. I like to have space to write down thoughts or ideas. For some reason, having too many notebooks makes me anxious, so I like to keep as few as possible. I have my bullet journal for planning and journaling, my sketchbook for, sketching and drawing, and my phone for quick notes or middle of the night ideas that would be forgotten if I had to get out of bed to write them down. And let's do one weekly spread. I usually design my weekly spreads pretty much the same way. I like seeing how many weeks I have left in the month, and I like having all the days in columns. I'm used to Sunday to Saturday weeks, so I'm sorry if that's unusual for some people. I also like writing goals for the week. These are more specific things that I want to achieve. Think of them as monthly goals, but broken into sections and smaller targets. And of course, I leave some space to write general notes or journal entries. This is where I write all my tasks for the day. Some tasks and appointments I know about when I make the spread, so I tend to add them as soon as possible. Others I add one day before or the day itself. This gives me structure but also flexibility. I find that layering elements on top of each other makes things more aesthetically pleasing and nice to look at. So I'm adding a little bit more washi tape and some additional elements from the Totoro letter set. And that's my merch setup. I hope you enjoyed seeing my process, including the struggles and how I work through them. Remember that your bullet journal is personal to you, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And sometimes the mistakes lead to even better results. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more bullet journal content. Let me know in the comments what theme you're using for March, or if you have any questions about my setup. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.